Hello, everybody. Welcome to our modern test strategy panel where we discuss automation strategies for your problems that you have right now. So for those of you just joining on the stream and those of you here in the room, questions can be submitted from either location on slido.com, SLIDO.com. The number is 169-3528. You're welcome to jump in there. Please submit questions. You also can upvote questions because sometimes we get too many questions to answer. So please feel free to upvote the ones you would like to see answered, or if there's one very similar to something you might otherwise ask. While you all are submitting your questions, let's do some introductions. So I'm your moderator. My name is Melissa Benua. I'm the head of platform engineering at a startup called Particle, but you're not really interested in me. Let's introduce our wonderful panelists.
Yay, I'm wonderful. So my name is Jenna Loeffler. You can see my face pretty much anywhere at this conference. I am a principal software engineer in test automation for a tech startup called InMarket.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hajar Ben Musa. I'm the CEO of CodeLingual, which is a multilingual trainer, QA trainer company. Yeah, that's about it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julio de Lima, and I am a principal QA engineer at a company called Capco. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me on this panel. My name is Filip Hritz. I'm DevRel at Replay.io. We solve flaky tests, help you solve flaky tests. That's what we do.
All right. Thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate it. And thank you, audience. This panel is only as good as the questions are that you guys submit, and I know you guys have already some pretty great ones in here. So that said, we've already got some questions. We've already got some upvotes. So we'll start with number one from Vlad. What is the main challenge when it comes to selecting codeless versus coding automation tools? Who wants to kick us off with that one?
I can start.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that the main challenge is that nowadays, when we talk about the people that are going to use the tools, it's not only the QAs, right, but also the developers. And then when we are talking about this how to say audience that is going to use the tools, we also need to think about the expertise that they have, and also the platforms that we are going to test, the layers. And I think that this is one of the challenges that we start by having, and to think about it, and also to think about the tools itself, right? There is a variety of tools. The clients, at least for me, that is a consultant, that I am a consultant. We need to also think about budget. Yeah, I think that audience and budget are the two main challenges when talking about it.
The main challenge that I see with people is they're asking the wrong question. The question you need to be asking is not, do I take a codeless tool or a coding tool for my test automation? It's, what am I going to be using the tool for? In some scenarios, a codeless tool might be just fine for you if it's helping to maybe assist some of your, augment some of your additional testing. But in other instances, you may need a coding tool. So the main challenge I've seen with most people is they get so focused on what tool should I use that they forget to ask, what am I going to be doing with this tool?
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, I'm going to actually consolidate both of them because it's about knowing what you're going to be using it for and who your audience is going to be for. So if you have, QAs that are already very qualified in coding and they have experience in programming, and why not, using it as a starting point? But again, just like she said, I'm sorry. It's also about mainly about what are we going to do with that? If you're just going to create a, use that tool to just, go through your software just to see what's going on, sure, it's probably going to be just enough. But if it's going to be, something that's going to become very, very big, then we might need to think about, something bigger and, getting your team on board to start coding and automate.
Yeah, so understanding the problem you're solving. My key takeaway there. Anything you want to add?
I'm very biased. I'm coding all the way. For me, I have this mental model. The codeless and coding tool also represent like the amount of control that I have over the things I do. So for me, like giving up that control with something that's more codeless is something I just like don't feel too comfortable with. And there's also a thing with test automation is that we're essentially trying to integrate two systems together. Like we can get into this weird integration hell where these two systems just like don't work together and you need to cram them together to work. And for me, like not having that control and trying to make it work seems like a too big of a challenge. But as I stated at the beginning, I am biased, so maybe I just need to learn more about codeless tools.
All right. Thank you all. So moving on to our next question here, because I see we've already got quite a list. From Anonymous, how do we deal with deeply stateful things, like if our tests depend on data that is very fleeting or complex?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Let me repeat the question. How do we deal with deeply stateful things, like if our tests depend on data that is very fleeting or complex? So data that has a lot of context around it in order to become useful. Complex test data management.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my life. So, yes, it's a challenge. I'm not gonna lie about that. The previous company that I worked for was a real-time data platform. The current company that I work for is not only real-time data platform, but it's also it's ads and geolocation, so it's probabilistic data as well. Fun.
Sounds like fun.
It sounds like fun. How do you deal with those challenges? Honestly, the way I deal with them is you have to know your systems. You have to know, the technology behind your coding stack. You have to have a good understanding of what is this code doing, and you need to talk with it's so important to talk with your product owners on what is the business value behind this. As far as So that's for just a general test strategy. For your test automation strategies and for test automation strategy around dealing with stateful things and data, honestly, you do your best. Much like Philip said, it's what can you control, and figuring out what you can control and what you can't control. And that's to say not everything needs to or should be automated. So that's going to be a big part of your strategy is once I know the technology, once I know the value, once I know how it all fits together, what can I control and what can I test through automation, or do I need to find other ways of testing it?
Like she said.
For me, I think the big challenge in that, as long as we are talking about like test automation, is getting a good observability into what's happening, right? Because when data gets complex, and God forbid you have a flaky test, right? Like good luck trying to find out around the whole mountain of data, like where is actually the problem? Is this a functional problem or a data problem? Did we actually not do the data seed properly or whatever? So as much observability as you can get, the better for you, the easier the problem will be.
So let me ask you, is data driven would be something that you would consider at that point, or may or may not be an option?
I think I would consider. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of want to add on to that too, because not a lot of people, I think about telemetry in their test cases. And what a lot of my developers have kind of shied away from telemetry in their code or in production code because it's going to slow things down. There's concerns about it, to which I say, well, why can't you run it in your test automation? You can have open telemetry and get your stack traces from your test automation. So that's.
Want to add anything?
Yeah, I would think more about the preparation of everything. It's like I had the opportunity to work in a project. It was very complex because we had many systems all connected, and they are managed by different groups. In a case like that, I start to work to even think about test data management represents to talk to each of these groups, understand how they model their data, and after that, to start to think about a process of how we are going to keep the blueprint of everything updated. This is one part. And the second part is how we are going to have access enough to this database and grant access to create and populate information there. So the preparation, this mapping, and the third one is how about we are going to share the data across the people that really need that. At the end of that project, what we had was a set of many procedures that populate data and they have grant access enough to create those data. And everyone that was, need that data had access to these procedures and were able to just go there and to select the information that they need and to use the procedures by themselves. It can be done in a way that is more manual, like I create my own scripts to do that, or using a tool, generally a paid tool that goes there and do these procedures, Yeah. But this preparation thing is one of the most important aspect, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I'll put on my group leadership hat here and say, also, what problem are you trying to solve with this complex data? What are you testing for? Does the complexity play a role in what you're actually testing for? Or are you just trying to do functional validation and it doesn't kind of matter that you're going to drive out performance-based corner cases of when my events are very big or small or look a certain way? Knowing what specific problem you're solving for will help you carve out some of the complexity to make it as simple as possible. Simpler the better.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody want to add anything else to that one?
I would like to add one thing.
Yes, please.
Because when we talk about test data, we generally think about databases, right, and storage. But sometimes the test data comes from a simulation of a service, right? So you don't have access to the databases from some of the services that are being consumed by the application that you are testing, or even you don't have control because it's an external service. So keep in mind and remember that test data can also be service responses from other services, not only databases. And then it will open your mind to think about other stuff that maybe you are not mapping. This is another thing as well.
Oh, good idea. Thank you. All right. Moving on, we have a question from John, which reads, what is one of the most common pitfalls companies run into when starting test automation efforts?
I'm going to go first on this one.
Yes.
So the lack of preparation, 1, the planning, 2, the budget, 3. I can go on and
All
on
of
and on
it.
if you want to, but mainly, to be honest with you, I would say planning is the number one issue because people, go to conferences, right? And they come out with the biggest idea of, hey, we're going to add automation now. And you know what? We're also going to add AI as well. And then, all these ideas start becoming so overwhelming that the lack of preparation, the lack of planning is going to lead you to a big disaster. So I would always suggest to make sure that you know what you're going to be dealing with, one, by planning properly, making sure that you have the right staff, the right resources, two, and obviously making sure that budget is there and, you know, having the right tools if you're thinking of, you know, how you're going to do your automation and things like that.
I'm right here, so I am going home like we're gonna do automation, we're gonna use AI, like you like.
Sorry.
So one of the key things that I write in any strategy document that I put together are principles. What are the principles behind this test automation strategy? And my favorite one, and the one that tends to resonate with most people, is test automation is not a religion. You know, there is not the one way of doing it, and once you're doing this is, you know, the way. This is what's going to save us. This is going to do all of this. I'm starting a new test automation project at my company, and they're like, well, do we do WebDriver IO, or do we do Playwright, or do we continue with our in-house thing? And I said, try it. It's not a one-way door. Try it, see how you like it, and go from there. So I think one of the biggest pitfalls is people get so wrapped up in automation is going to save us, and there is one way of doing this. And once we start, we just have to stick with it.
That's a great point. I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit. I think one of the things I would add to the list is premature optimization.
Yes.
Trying to figure out everything that they want,
Want.
right? I've seen that so many times that people try to make their code into something that it is not today. And again, like, you can iterate. You're not building a building. It's software. You can rewrite. You can optimize later. You don't have to. I just talked about don't repeat yourself as a principle that is in theory good, but it can definitely be overdone, right? You don't want to repeat yourself, but also you don't want to write 4 abstractions for a single test.
Yeah. So what I see is, for sure, this excitement, as you said, right? As soon as you know some new tool and etc. But one thing that I've been saw in many projects that I worked on is that generally people will start by creating the test scripts, and a lot of them, right? And then you see things becoming green, and then you are so excited, but then you write 10 test scripts, everything is running fine. And then during the beginning of the sprint, the developers start to change a lot of things, and then they start failing, you know. And then you see that those 10 test scripts that was already passing. I see a lot of people laughing here in the audience, you know. And then those 10 tests are not working anymore, and that's maybe it's a little bit polemic, but in my opinion is that because the test script, as soon as it is wrote, it's not for you, tester. It's an active for the team, you know. So the team should help to keep that running. So if you have 10 test scripts that is running on the pipeline, and then a developer did a change, and this change broke 5 test scripts, the developer should have enough knowledge to at least look at those tests and be able to change. Because if they rely on you, tester, to change, you will not win this battle. Do you know what I mean? So roles and responsibilities, how they say, make me think back to the roles and responsibilities, the racy metrics, you know? So the developers will be, how they say, also responsible when things change. Do you know what I mean? So this is one thing that
Quicker
is I
feedback
see.
loops.
Yeah.
I really hope this is not a controversial take.
But it is, man. I mean,
Please no.
Yeah, I already mentioned that, and then people like, oh, developers.
We need to make it
changing that.
mainstream.
Yeah.
Developers also can read code. I know it's suspicious from the kind of bugs they write, but they can also read code.
So
Care about
yeah,
They
yeah.
should be.
No, they should be. But for example, so I definitely will not mention the name of the client, but there was there is a client that they said, "Hey, you testers will take care of it, like it was my baby." You know, it's so I can bring this to life, to bring this to the life, but I will not be the only one responsible for it for the rest of the life. You know, otherwise we will need one tester for each developer.
Yep. So the question.
What should be my nice response to them? Do I kind of wait until it's bug free or after it's bug free for me to start?
So for
How to say it like in a way that they will accept it? I'll say it.
Yeah. So for those of you on the stream, the question is when and how to start test automation efforts for a product that's already underway, but kind of prototypey and full of bugs and obviously under active development.
Oh, okay, I go. Um, I know.
That was mine too.
Exactly. One of the big things that's helped me with that is ensuring that test automation is in your definition of done. Because if it's flaky and they keep rewriting it, well, they better keep rewriting that test too. It shouldn't just rely on the tester or the test automation engineers to maintain all of these tests. If you're going to break my test, you better darn well fix it because obviously the requirements have changed. So the test needs to change. And if you're changing the code, you can change the test.
So there's two level of your in your question. This is how I see it. When to start? I mean, you're going to be involved as soon as possible, right? Because you need to understand how the software works and what are the functionality, et cetera, et cetera. The second level of your question is the flakiness. I totally agree with you on this point because a lot of people feel like, okay, you know what? Now we got into test automation. Let's automate everything. There's no way you're going to be able to automate everything. You need to make sure that your script, your software is stable. And as I understand, yours is not stable. So if you're going to start automating, automation takes time. This is not a, okay, let's click our fingers and we're going to be done with everything. So my advice would be to make sure that your software is as stable as possible, but at the same time, as an engineer, you start understanding and thinking of what I'm going to be testing. So think of, your repeatability, things that are going to be in your regression. Those can already be in the back of your mind before, fixing all the defect. Because again, having a software with zero defect is impossible, right?
So I have to challenge one thing on that.
Go ahead.
And that's the idea that software is ever stable.
never stable. I agree.
Stable. So it's like, so for me, the adding on top of that, it's what type of automation are we talking about? Unit tests, that's a form of test automation that your developer should be doing and they should be changing. Maybe it's not ready yet for any sort of release testing or production testing or staging testing, but there is still automation that you can be writing, whether it's you or the developer. So start early.
I did this experiment once when we were still in development cycle, and I was in charge of testing the feature, and I also was in charge of creating the test automation. And I decided I'm going to do it in one take. Like I'm going to be creating the test automation script, but also testing it manually. And I realized these two things actually go really well together because as I'm trying to write that script and find my selectors and find the logic of what I'm testing, I'm realizing that I'm getting to know the feature left and right and actually understand the APIs that are being called And as a result, it made my manual testing effort much more robust. So I think your question was like when to start. I think the answer is as soon as possible. Yesterday, probably. As soon as possible. I like my personal experience with that was really, really great. So maybe try it out. I don't know.
Do you have something real quick you wanted to add?
So wouldn't it just be easier to start right away by using automation for something similar to see if your software is stable?
Yes.
Not
Yes.
stable, you don't begin your testing, you send it back.
Yeah. The question from the audience is, wouldn't it be simpler to just start with something simple so that you can see if the code under test is stable? I'm going to ask that most questions go into the app only because we have viewers on the stream as well, and otherwise I have to repeat all the questions, which I certainly can do, but it's a lot easier if they're all in the app.
Okay, one last thing. I promise. And even if you're looking beyond unit testing, things like that, doing the tests up front, like Philip reminded me, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Having failing tests is not a bad thing. If your tests I try and do a lot of behavior-driven development. And so I should understand what the behavior is of the user or who's ever using this. And that's what I should write my test towards. Doesn't necessarily mean the code has to be done. This is the requirement. This is what has been given to me as the definition of this is quality, this is passing. So you can write it and it can continue to fail until the developer turns it green.
Also, never trust a test that you haven't seen fail, right?
Exactly.
Right. Anything
Yeah.
else?
Yes. So start early, as it's a benefit also for the test automation, because sometimes the way that the developer starts to develop the application is not, how they say, a way to facilitate the test automation effort afterwards, So if you start to think about test automation in the very beginning, you will be able to detect this lack of testability in the software. Like, so probably the major problem on testability is the lack of identifications, or lack of good locators. So you find that in the very beginning, so you can talk to your buddy developer, say, hey, this is something here that we can change. Or maybe you have access to the code. You can say, let me submit a pull request here with the locators that I believe that could be good. Or if this is an API, you don't have access, you don't have control, you can talk to them at the very beginning, and then you can facilitate things in the future. I think that claiming about this testability benefit could be a good path for this beginning for everyone that is starting test automation now.
Yeah.
One more thing that I wanted to add, I'm sorry. The point, in my opinion, the point of automation is to help you, have feedback from your software. So if you start late, in my opinion, you're kind of like missing the point. So I agree with all my colleagues here, and as early as possible is the answer. It's just how you're going to do it, and that's going to depend on how you feel comfortable in the failure mode. And failing is good. Failure is good because you always get back.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you all. If I had to pick one thread out from everybody's answer, I think it would be you have to probably have a good working relationship between dev and test in order to solve the problem together. I think without it, you're probably in a sticky situation.
Look at you doing the TLDR.
I'm good at this. All right. So we've got a really quick one for our next one. We can probably run right down the line with pretty brief answers. We'll start with Philip. So do you think the industry is so hyped on automation and AI that the testing that requires more manual effort like usability or accessibility is getting forgotten?
From where I stand, no, actually. Should I elaborate? You said quick answer, so
Yeah, a couple sentences.
I don't know. Like when I look around with people that I work with, people that I talk to, I think things like accessibility are actually getting to the spotlight more and more. That's what I see as a trend in a couple of months, years. So yeah, just like sharing subjective perspective. I think no, the trend is actually going well for stuff like accessibility.
I have an interesting follow-on, so we'll keep going. You gotta. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I would ask, what is usability and accessibility? So, but because sometimes it's not even talking in the projects. I don't know if you guys have heard someone talking about this in your projects, but sometimes when I heard, it is about companies trying to avoid suits. I don't know how to say it in English.
Yeah, legal
Being
problems.
sued.
Legal,
Legal
yeah,
problems. Thank you.
lawsuits.
Yeah. I see this hype of test automation and AI taking all the other places of quality, you know, and I see us as QAs, people to raise the risks and saying, hey, it's not only because there are legal problems, but also because the people, you know. For those who know someone that is blind or have some issues related to the vision, they generally are more advocates for that, right? You have a person that you know, you say, hey, accessibility, but not even all the projects how they say will focus on it. Um, but for test automation, it's quick. Hey, let's start. You know, so I see they getting abandoned, and I see our role as people that need to raise this stuff.
Okay. So I hear a little bit of fear in that question. I think that stems from the fact that, AI is going to take over my job. I'm going to lose my job. We will not lose our jobs, I promise. I always tell my students, you got to make sure that you keep up with, innovation. Innovation is great. This is why we are engineers, right? We want to be creative. We want to learn new things. In my opinion, and I will say it again, no, no, no. It's not going to be something that is going to take over our jobs. We're just going to have to probably assimilate and bring it in, in our testing toolbox, which is great. Now, concerning manual testing, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I love exploratory testing. It's something that I always do no matter what I do, whether I do test automation or not. So no, I don't believe that there is a lack in manual testing, or it's going to manual testing is going to go away.
My turn. No. Follow me on LinkedIn for more helpful testing tips.
There you go.
Perfect. So, thanks for that, Jana. We have a good follow-up to this question, which is, how do you explain to leadership/executives the need for a level of continued manual testing in a highly automated AI testing landscape?
I need for what again?
How do you explain to executives that we need to do this testing without, when they get all excited about AI buzzwords, that the executive thinks AI is going to come and take their jobs?
Test automation is not a religion. No. Done. Follow me on LinkedIn for more helpful tips. The way I do it is, so I can go into a whole spiel about automation. In fact, I give talks on test automation strategies. And in one of these, I like to challenge the question, because we all have heard it, how long is it going to take you to test? Or you need to have testing done by this date. And I usually give my executives 3 answers. I have my testing planned out. I have my product mapped out. I have my story mapping done. I have all the information that I need to start either writing automation or start testing. And I say, okay, if you want this coverage, which may just be this is what our test automation covers. If you want this, I can get this done in this many days. If you want additional testing, this is what's involved in that. I'm going to need this many days. Or if you want this type of testing, I'm going to need this many days. And I let them make the business decision. Because remember, as testers, our job is to test. It's up to the business to make those business decisions and assume the risk around it. It's just our job to highlight those risks.
It's tough. Why it's tough? Because so let's imagine. Let's try to wear the hat of the executive. They don't know deeply about software testing. They don't know about what we study about. They don't know about test design techniques. They don't know about test strategies, approach. They don't know anything about it. The only thing that they heard is that there is a tool that can do that can test. So that's why I'm telling that is tough, because for them it's easy to see a tool doing the job that they believe that is the job that you do. Uh, Again, it's tough to talk about it, because in order to make the person on this high level to understand that there are a lot of work that you human being need to do, is to let them know what you do. And generally, we as testers, we don't do this very good, right? We generally say, oh, we test, oh, we do that, oh, we do exploratory testing, oh, we do test automation, etc. Do you know? But what it means exactly, do you know? What I did one time for one CEO that was asking about myself was to literally draw a mind map with all the stuff that I do you know? And maybe you guys can do that as well. And then create a mind map with all the stuff that you do, and then say, hey, look, ChatGPT, for example, can do this, this, and that. All the other stuff, it's myself doing that. It's not manual testing, it's software testing. You can do this way. Replace the word manual by software testing, and then you show the broader view of what software testing is. And maybe they can understand that you are not just clicking around or drawing, designing shallow test cases. That's how I see.
I loved what you said. Replace the word manual. You could also replace that with human, because we're building software for humans, right? So that's like the best quality we have as manual human testers, right? That's what we want to validate. Is the software we're shipping actually enjoyable for humans? Does it solve their problems? And I don't really see AI taking over very soon.
And I'm going to add one more thing to all these awesome comments. You probably want to add ChatGPT or any other LLM, it doesn't matter, but who's going to test what they're doing? Because at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but so far, the ones that I've been using, it's not 100% great. I know probably in the future it's going to be good, but right now, anytime I try to ask ChatGPT, hey, can you create this test case, blah, 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 I literally have to redo exactly the opposite of what it's telling me. So I don't know about you guys, but I don't trust them yet. So that would be my biggest argument if my boss is telling me, hey, well, we're going to get rid of you and we're going to put AI. I'm like, okay, good luck. Because that's gonna cost you a lot of money, because it's not 100%.
So Julio, I love your mind maps. I use mind maps a lot, and I'm glad you said it a lot more elegantly than I could, because I was going to be catty and I was just going to say with crayons and a lot of pictures. I can say that I have been an executive, so.
Yeah. It's real quick, I promise. I did an experiment a couple of days ago, actually, asking a generative AI tool to create a unit test for one specific piece of code. And I don't know, but I don't know about you, but I was thinking, how can I test that your comment, right? For unit tests, you can test the efficiency of who produced that using mutation testing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried that, and there are some mutants that was alive after that. So this is one way to prove that there are more things behind the content producing. So try in your house. You will like this.
So we have time for one last question. I know this 45 has flown by. So I'm going to ask you the same question with two different flavors, and you can choose whether you're going to answer the original version or the extra spicy version. So the original version is, how do we get developers to join testing and quality work? The spicy version is, how do we trick developers into building testable systems?
I'm going to be the nice one then, because it looks like everybody's going to take the spicy one. So in my previous company, our PM was an awesome one, because he was first a developer, got into testing, and then went back to becoming a developer and blah, blah, blah. But the way he did it, which I really thought was really, really great, he made developers come with us and do the test automation, whether they liked it or not. So it gave them a flavor of what we're doing, made them appreciate what we're doing. And to be honest with you, we had 4 developers that did our job. I'm not going to be bad, but they did not do a good job. Not only that, they also really, really appreciated us even more afterwards, because they came towards us and they'd be like, oh, I did not know that you guys do this type of work. And not only it made our team a better, collaborative type of team, but made also the testing team look, a little bit better, and they started really appreciating our work. So that's one idea.
I'll take the spicy version. How do I trick developers into this? 2 words: developer experience. So yeah, the way that I do this is I look at it from the developer's point of view. I put my developer hat on and I said, how can I make this a better experience for you? Do you want to continue to write, bugs? How about we can make you get faster feedback? Ooh, then you don't have to, come back to the same thing 3 days later. How about we increase the speed of the build? What would help you write better code?
Stick.
Stick.
Stick. Big stick.
Developer experience. I want to work with you to enhance your developer experience.
That was spicy.
I actually love that. I actually don't know if that was spicy. I think you took the empathy route towards developers, right? Because we want, as testers, for developers to walk a mile in our shoes. We should do the same for them, right? We should have a little bit more. I'm really a big advocate for, as a tester, try to build an app just for a day. Try it out. Try the developer experience, right? So then you can understand better how to drive developers to your experience. And if I would give a short answer to that question, I would say put them in the same room. I think developers and testers should sit together in the same room.
Yeah, I see that is a very good experience, because I remember one guy that I worked with. He was a React developer and he hates testing, a lot. And I remember that he got to love testing after some sessions together. He heard a about Cucumber, and he would like he would like me to use that. And I said, hey, this is for BDD, by the way, behavior driven development, so it's yours, my friend. And then he was like, oh, I don't want to write these things. And then we sit together, me, him, and the product owner. The product owner fulfill us with lots of information. I helped him to go through the gherkin stuff, and then I teach him how to transform the steps into code. And then he was, oh, this is very good, And then he implemented one. I remember that he implemented a search with filters functionality in e-commerce, and then he made that run and working fine. And then in the next sprint, he was coding something that broke the search filter. And then the code failed, and he was not believing the test. He said, "Oh, it's failing. What I did wrong?" And I said, "Your test is fine. The code that you produced was wrong." And then he was, "Oh man, that's very good." And that was like he loves software testing now, you know. And he sent me a message the last week saying, "Hey, I learned a lot from you, and I'm writing tests with my PO and the next QA here in the company." You know, and this was good, and this is the collaboration that you brought. You know, I love that.
So if I'm going to pull a meta thread from all of his answers, the thing you should do is to take your test strategy and your test documents and wrap them in a piece of cheese and then entice your developers.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say one of the ways that I became more empathetic as a tester, and I think it is so important for testers to do this, is I did exactly that. I took over a back-end engineering team. Now, I've been a developer. I was a director of test for 3-4 years. So I'd been out of coding testing realm in general for about 3-4 years when I was other than strategy. When I took over this team, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see what it's like because I'm curious what my developers are. So it's a back-end engineering team when I have never done back-end development, written in C# when I have never done C#. So I go to my developers and I'm like, what can I code? What can I do to see what your life is like? And they said, oh, here's this one change. It's just a 2-line change. You can do this, a 2-line change. A month later, after I had to rewrite the entire thing because it was not a 2-line change, I got about 95% complete and said, okay, guys, you got to finish this if you ever want it done. So it really did open my eyes. And that's what I came to with the development experience is I was like, oh, this is just painful. So what can I do to help alleviate some of those pains?
It's interesting how, if we walk in their shoes and they walk in our shoes, I think it can really bring the whole hate, quote unquote. I'm not going to say hate. It's not a good word, but this quote unquote animosity between us. If we can walk in their shoes and they can walk in our shoes, I think it can really create a better understanding and really, bring in some empathy. That's the term that I'm looking for, right?
Yeah, that would be my actual takeaway here is empathy.
Yeah.
Also cheese. Like cheese is good too.
Cheese
but
is a
empathy,
good word too.
Really empathy. So I hate to break it to you all, but we are at time, my friends. There are still a lot of wonderful questions we did not get to in the Slido. Please, I'm sure everybody here would love to continue answering questions for the rest of the conference. We're all going to be kind of around here and there, right? Most of us, some of us. But yeah, thank you all for your wonderful questions. And can I get a round of applause, please, for this wonderful panel?
And don't forget to look for my face and rate the session.
Rate your Jana.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. And Lightning Key.